All right, this video today, this first one we're gonna be watching tonight comes to us from Mintskull, which is a very, very kind content creator who's always been very kind and nice to us when we have interacted with them. Very, very talented content creator as well. So please now do what you usually do, which is hit that link. Go support the official release of the video by liking and subscribing to this creator. This video in particular, they're gonna be talking about how they think the Sadako rework is a nerf, which is actually one of the few things, like usually Mintskull and I have very, very similar ideas about the game, but this is something we kind of have a divide on, because I thought the Sadako rework does make her generally stronger, like in the hands of an average player, but kind of mutes her more oppressive stuff that was possible through like the slug condemn stuff, which honestly was not like the most entertaining playstyle in the world, so I'm not exactly, you know, crying any tears that it's gone. Or it's not even gone, it's just like it's different. It's not even gone, it's just different. It's not as potent, I think would be the word. It's not as potent. So let's see how they think the whole thing is a nerf.
For
32 minutes.
Dead by Daylight players, this is one of the best mid-chapters ever made, with one of the best survivors ever designed with a lot of charismatic personality. But for others, this patch is a nightmare. A complete butchering
this patch is
one
a
of
nightmare?
the most iconic horror characters ever. Now, I think on defense of behavior that there was a huge misunderstanding caused by the community and content creators, including myself, as we advertised the Sadako rework as a buff, but upon playtesting
it's generally a buff
against
like
Sadako in various matches in the PTB, this
because the thing is, like, the difference being is that, like, Condemned is easier to spread naturally, so Condemned is more of a threat just in the normal gameplay flow without having to force it, but survivors have more that they can do against, you know, the, like, somebody who's trying to, like, force Condemned. So that's kind of, like, why I generally think it's a buff. It's not, like, a massive buff or anything, but, like, her condemned status effect is now a natural part of the natural flow of gameplay, whereas it was essentially not really a factor unless you were trying to do the forced playstyle before.
Feels like a side grade, but currently to the worse. What Behavior did is they decided to design the new rework to favor survivor players way too much, similar to what they did to Singularity back in the PTB. This was all done with the purpose of completely gutting the Condemned playstyle popularized by One Pump Willie.
Yeah, in which, to be fair, not a very fun playstyle to face. It's spending most of the game on the ground, slugged, while somebody just keeps putting you on the ground, slugged. And, like, it's one of those things where it's like, the only people I see who are like, it was fun to face, are when they, you know, you would face somebody who was doing it, like, kind of, like, mediocrely, like, they weren't doing it that well, you know? And then you're like, wow, that was kind of fun. But, like, anybody who was actually, like, really good at it, or brought a really oppressive build to kind of, like, pretend they're good at it, like, it was very obnoxious.
Which a lot of survivors and killer players agree can be extremely boring to play against. However, by typical Behavior fashion, they decided to add things to her kit that nobody asked for, similar to the overheating mechanic of Hillbilly.
It's not.
In fact,
the overheat mechanic on Billy, that is, these are not in the same ballpark. they wanted to kick Billy down and just take all his lunch money and leave him for dead. That is not what they did to Sadako.
When you read the Div Diary, it seems to be completely catered to an inexperienced survivor. No, the changes made with this patch did not make Sadako scarier than ever. They made her pathetic. And no, taking the curse tape is not a strategic choice you need to make. There is no strategy. It is objectively the best and most brain-dead counterplay they have ever added for a killer power, to the point it makes the Singularity's EMPs look like the Mona Lisa of game design, and it completely goes against Sadako's lore or character design. Calling this a strategic choice is like saying that breathing is a strategic choice in order to continue living. And finally, they completely missed the mark on the add-on rework. In fact, This is one of the worst add-on reworks I have ever seen that accomplishes
Homie's upset.
nothing
Homie's very
at
upset.
all. When I started playing Sadako in the PTB, I was having fun. I was able to get a lot of condemned kills, and I thought that this was a nice buff they made for Sadako.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I like the idea of global condemned because
like literally, like I was getting more condemned kills. Like I don't do the condemned play style, right? Like that's not something I do. But I got more condemned kills in the PTB than I did playing her normally, just like outside of the PTB. And then when I actually decided to try and do some forced condemned shenanigans, like in the ways that are still available to her after rework, it felt easier. Not like easier in the sense that like it was easier to get them, but like it was like that was still present. That was still a gameplay style I could do. It just like required a different play style because like in the PTB it's more like you can still do the slug a person, build up their condemned, but you have to like hunt people down who have tapes, which most people are going to have tapes because they don't want to build up condemned. I don't know. It's just like it didn't seem like the character was dead or anything. I don't know. Mintskull is obvious dislike of pay to win. His anger this update seems confused. Yeah, like it seems like he completely dislikes this update, which is interesting. I don't know. Let's keep listening. Keep listening.
They finally made the condemned mechanic into an actual threat in the middle of the game.
Yeah, which I like.
The problem is that this threat is only a threat against new players or noobs, since everyone in this PTB was just cloning around with Nicolas Cage. That's why I was having fun and playing well. I didn't have a single match where I was playing against competent survivors because matchmaking doesn't exist in the PTB and everyone wants to meme, not to play to win. It was not until I played against Sadako with a more competitive mentality and when I started to fully...
Yeah, but that's what I was saying, Frick, is like, if people have tapes, like, you can focus people. But you can focus people to try and, like, you know, make condemned happen if they all have tape, or if somebody has tape, or if most people have tapes. You can hunt down those people and force more condemned on them by hitting them. But also, what's happening in the background is a lot of, like, kind of, like, passive slowdown, which is not something that's ever been part of her kit. Is there's a lot of, like, passive slowdown happening of people having to go out of their way to go grab tapes, because the tapes break as you put people on hook as well. So there's a lot of passive slowdown happening in the background of people having to go do that as well.
Live streams of this PTB the moment when I discovered just how stupid and busted the new counterplay to her power is. Back in my dev diary video, I said that Sadako might be a monster at tunneling a survivor off the hook and condemning them with the tapes. Well, it turns out that this is mathematically the worst possible way of inflicting condemned. Why, you might ask? Because they, for some reason, completely removed the stack you earned when you picked up a tape from a TV, despite this not being mentioned in any part of the dev diary,
still do that, and I'd be fine with it.
This being a huge nerf to her power that I didn't notice until I started rewatching my own footage. This meant that in theory and in practice, you had zero risk of dying from condemned if you picked up a tape at the start of the match, which is objectively the best thing to do, as there is zero risk, because as long as you're holding a cursed tape, the new global condemned effect does not apply to you. So that means you are protected from the only game slowdown and basically the only power Sadako has, since she has...
but like he's also ignoring the fact that even going out of your way to go grab a tape is a slowdown in itself. Like, yes, you can't, like, slow down that way, but, like, the fact that people have to constantly go to TVs, pick up tapes to protect themselves is a time waster as well.
Has no anti-loop, and at the same time,
there's not a TV at every gen.
TV for 90
not at every gen, no.
seconds.
That's an
According
exaggeration.
to the dev diary, they say that cursed tapes become more dangerous to have. This is objectively false, and also that it's way more punishing to hold a cursed tape if you
That's how they spawn. Some of them do, not all of them.
Finds you, which again is completely false.
Toddler, do you actually think that tapes, that like TVs only spawn next to gens? Because that's just not factual, like literally at all. That's not correct. That's not, like, literally, like, bring up any Sadako match and look where the TV spawns. Some spawn near gens, but not all of them. Some spawns near hooks, some spawn in areas where there's high traffic, like it's definitely not just at gens only. So, keep that in mind.
Let's test this mathematically. Since you get 0 stacks on pickup, you will start with 0 stacks of Condemned once you pick up a cursed tape. But let's throw a bone at behavior and say that Sadako had enough time to teleport once the TV is turned on. So now everyone has 0.75 stacks of Condemned. Now let's imagine that Sadako finds the survivor with the cursed tape and she gets to take them down. Not an easy task considering she's an M1 killer. That's 2 hits to down. So it's 2.75 stacks of Condemned total. Now from this point, whatever decision the Sadako makes, it is completely up to the survivors what their situation will end up being. If they do not take a cursed tape after getting down, Sadako would have to teleport 6 times in order to fully...
Well, the strat is still the same. The strat is still the same as if you want to condemn that person, you leave them on the ground. Right, that strat's still the same when it comes to the condemn strat. Like, if you still want to condemn somebody, you leave them on the ground. That way they still have their tape, so you can keep building it whenever they get up.
Fully condemned a survivor with a cooldown of 15 seconds for each teleport. Again. That is 1.5 minutes of match time until a survivor is in the danger zone, not counting the time to find the condemned survivor and down them as a M1 killer. And that's on the best case scenario, because as long as a survivor interacts with a TV, any TV on the entire map, all that danger is gone. And really, you cannot do anything either, because once a survivor picks up a tape on a TV, you have no map traversal power on that place. And it's worse on giant maps like Borgo or Red Forest, where you have to find that...
This is what I liked with what Ace said. Ace said that in compensation for this, because I do think this is worse, is that in compensation for people wanting or needing to go grab tapes more often, that her cooldown not be nearly as severe as it is. And I agreed with that.
Survivor with the tape as an M1 killer. That's 1 survivor out of 4, 1 hook state out of 12. If the devs didn't remove the condemned stack upon picking up a tape, now that would actually be a dangerous situation to be in, as you would potentially have 3.75 stacks of condemned after getting hooked, and potentially 4.75 stacks after picking up a tape again.
Well, that's something that regularly kills survivors. True. I agree, Toto. They wanted it to be more of a, like a built-in slowdown.
If they get healed. That means
and match delay, not like actually have people be dying from it all the time.
Similar to what Pyramid Head can do with his judgment,
hopefully you're wrong.
But only in the best case scenario. Mathematically, at no point a survivor is in real danger as long as they interact with the televisions. I think you
bring up another good point as well in that, Toto, that I feel like we should gloss over, is like, if you have the ability to just like nuke somebody out of a match, do you want that to be plentiful? Do you want that to be something that's like easy to achieve? Do you want to buff that necessarily, right? I kind of liked the way they went about it, where it was like it's adding it as a part of background slowdown and game delay for the character without having it be like entirely removed.
Salt in the wounds.
Yeah, like pig traps. You don't often have head pops unless you're running like add-ons and really trying to force it to happen. But the people having to run around and search traps, like,
which is an absolute huge nerf, not mentioned at any point in the dev diary, that as long as it's in effect, it completely butchers Sadako and brings her straight to the worst killer position. So not only can you, as a survivor, keep the cursed tape for as long as you want, with basically 0 repercussions because they removed the condemned stack on pickup, but you also can put it in any television you want with 0 downsides, only benefits, since you are countering her map traversal, and you also technically have more than 3 stacks removed when you do so. So this is an objective nerf to her power that was not mentioned at any point in the developer diary, and these changes are so fundamentally big that the omission of them makes me think that Behavior has zero idea how Sadako works, or they didn't playtest this, so they themselves had no idea this was programmed in this way. In fact, if you only play Sadako in this PTB as a killer, you might have not noticed these huge nerfs to her power, since the condemned stacks are hidden to her, and there is a chance you just learned this by watching my video. And let's now talk about the curse tape's slowdown, because it's not like you have to go out of your way to pick up a curse tape,
Sometimes
since the TVs spawn near generators most of the time. So you are even doing yourself a favor by picking it up, as you will deactivate that TV for 90 seconds, which is enough time to finish a generator. It's not like Pinhead or the Pig slowdown, which requires you to completely stop what you're doing in order to get rid of the passive slowdown. It's literally a benefit to the survivor.
Yeah, but you said they only spawn near gens, Toddler. Don't get it twisted. You said they only spawn near gens.
That comes with zero downsides. Even Singularity's EMPs take more time to take than the cursed videotapes. Calling Sadako's tapes and TVs a slowdown mechanic is like calling the Trapper's bear traps a slowdown mechanic too, since you have to disarm them as a survivor. But at least by disarming traps, you reveal your location to the Trapper, and also there are add-ons that penalize the survivors for doing so. However, with Sadako, there are no consequences, not even with add-ons. The devs act in the dev diary as if taking the curse tape is now a life or death situation, but in reality, with the solo queue improvements to the HUD, you can literally see the moment Sadako starts a chase with another survivor, and you can take that time to pick up a tape and remove the condemned stats with absolutely zero risk. And even if you are blind and you have no eyes to look at the HUD, as long as you have ears and you can hear the 40-meter lullaby the devs thought was a good idea.
Yeah, I still agree that I don't know why she has a lullaby. Why does a stealth killer have a lullaby? I don't know. I do not know. I do not know. I still don't get why that's a thing. There's a TV assigned. Can you show me your source on how there's a TV assigned to spawn at every single gen? Because I've definitely been at a gen and not seen a TV before. So unless something broke and that breaks often, because it's not the only time it's ever happened, can you show me your source on that? Already have a red stain while you're asleep? I never even thought about that. You know what's funny? You know what's funny, Jansen? I never even thought about that. That's a good point. That is weird. That's odd.
Simply start running early while holding the cursed tape. What is she gonna do? Is she gonna catch up to you while they manifested now that chases do not start and she does not get bloodlust? With the plague, you have to make a strategic choice as a team. Do you remove the infection at the cost of giving her the corrupt purge, or do you stay infected, hoping that your looping skills allow you to survive? There is strategy here. With Skull Merchant, you also have to remove her drones at the cost of giving her
nothing about Skull Merchant's good
tracking,
design. Don't you get started with that.
The penalty of vaulting a pallet and breaking it. Nemesis and Wesker's cures will deplete the longer the match lasts, and also reveal your location. You lose a lot of time with Cenobite's Lament configuration, and you also have your location shown, and you cannot keep the box as you will have the Oblivious status effect and constantly be attacked by chains. Every single example here has some downsides to their counterplay, depending on how strong the power itself is. But with Sadako, what is the downside of taking a cursing tape at the start of the match? You turn off a TV for 90 seconds, you ignore the global condemned, and you mathematically cannot get condemned, and you also literally remove more than 4 stacks of the power by interacting with any TV, turning it off as well for 90 seconds. My other bigger problem with this change is that it makes zero sense thematically. Why would you be at the safest when you are carrying
this I do agree
a
with.
literal cursed artifact?
This
on
is
yourself?
weird, especially
Before
considering
this
the
nerf,
lore of the movie.
Carrying a tape felt dangerous because at least you had a passive condemned effect constantly going, even if you could get rid of it fast and you were.
And she could still come after you'd hit you and add
It
stacks.
still made thematic sense that a cursed artifact would curse you the longer you hold it. Now, holding this cursed artifact makes you protected from the killer, and it makes zero sense. She is not terrifying anymore. She is a
Was she ever
joke.
terrifying?
And this line in the dev diary is a downright lie. And now let's talk about her teleport, because it feels bad. One of the things that made Sadako unique is that she could teleport to any TV instantly, unlike the rest of teleport characters like Demogorgon.
Yeah, her
Dredge,
cooldown's a
or
little too
Freddy.
harsh, I agree.
But now with that 15
I wish they would
second
revert this.
cooldown, she feels just like any of those killers, restrictive. Now to be fair, like they said on the dev diary, they needed a cooldown for Sadako, so she doesn't just start a match and immediately condemn
Yeah, but you
every
can
single
make it
survivor
a
at the
little
start.
shorter. You can
So,
make it like
how about
you can make
a
it shorter.
compromise, a middle ground? What
Yeah.
if the 15-second cooldown is not applied to the teleport, but to the global condemned status effect? This way, you
That's a
let
good idea.
Sadako
I like that.
players teleport whenever they want, just like before, but they can only trigger the condemned global status effect once 15 seconds passed. I think that's a fair compromise that would let skilled
Alright,
Sadako
I'd be down with that.
players use their power for map control and for cool chase situations, and at the same time, it will also give the strategy of saving the teleports and use them to spread condemnation. I don't know, that sounds like a strategic choice that you will need to make, right? But as it is right now, it feels worse to play her. But like I said, I fully understand why this cooldown is set in place. And if they don't change this post PTB, then I won't be mad, because I really like the global condemned effect, and I think that's a step in the right direction
Yeah.
to make her better. Also, I know this is a nitpick, but I liked using her TV sometimes to discover the location of survivors trying to hide.
I
As
did
could
like that
see
a lot.
The condemned stack growing on
It
them
is cool.
once I teleport on a specific TV. This is now gone, but I will admit it's just a small thing that maybe only I did, I don't know. So I don't think
It
this will
rewards you
bother
for knowing
many
the character
players.
well.
In a way, it's even better for noobs or skill-less players, because now you are incentivized to teleport the moment your cooldown is back, so you can inflict condemned to everyone, unlike before, where you had to strategically teleport to a TV that you thought survivors would be near of. Since the
I mean, the
developer-
flip side as well is like since it's, you know, global teleport, and you're safe from the global teleport. Cool. Like the build up from the global teleport, you can tell who has VHS tapes. You know, so it's still info of some sort. I mean, it's not as helpful info, but it is info.
Her diary was written with a tone directed to new players and casuals. I guess removing skill expression is a win for behavior. And you want to know the funniest part by
Well, the thing is, like, this is not atypical. This is not something that's atypical. In games in general, when there's a very, very popular AP, or like, for example, like a front page character, like Trapper is like kind of like Trapper's not very strong because he's the front page character. But this is common in a lot of games. Like Ryu for Street Fighter is the front page character. He's the main character. So in most games he's either middle of the pack or fairly weak, because who are players going to play when they pick up the game? They're going to pick up the character on the box art. This goes doubly for any sort of like really, really cool and very, very popular IPs. People are going to pick up the game to play certain IPs. Not so much in the Western world, but in the Eastern world, like Ringu is like the horror icon, right? And it's still incredibly popular because of like the Western remake with like The Ring and stuff, right? So if you make that character super good, and a bunch of just people just coming in and chilling and just coming in and vibing, who just want to play the IP, you're going to have an oversaturation of very, very obnoxious games because, like, people without having to, like, really, you know, like, do much just come in and they're just like, okay, well, I want to play this top tier character, and they just lay waste to people. I mean, DBD kind of has a micro version of this with Wesker, right? Resident Evil also a very, very popular, one of the most popular video game franchises of all time. Wesker's like top 5, top 10 character in the game, and you see him every other game because despite him having a high skill ceiling, you don't really need to do any of the skillful things to win with him. So you just have an oversaturation of Weskers over and over and over and over and over again. Because they're just here to play Wesker. They don't care as much about DBD. And there's just a super oversaturation of them. So I just, like, I don't know, like... I don't know if I want to, buff these characters to a place where they're, like, too strong. Because then you end up in a situation where, like... You're having the Wesker problem. It's like every other game, it's the same dude, and he's really strong, so he's just laying waste to everybody. You know, it's like... You don't want to do that.
Far, I said at the start that this entire rework is not made to make Sadako stronger. It was made to make her healthier by butchering the condemned playstyle that made her actually usable against high-tier survivors, and also was extremely unfun to play against. Well, what if I told you that technically this playstyle still exists in the game?
Yeah, it's not gone.
It's
It's just
even
different.
potentially more toxic than before. By using the perk Save the Best for Last and a build catered to slugging with the new Iridescent Tape add-on that will make it so that survivors have to bring the tape to the furthest TV possible, you can technically slug survivors that are carrying a tape, and every time they get downed, they will gain 1 stack of Condemned plus any stacks they earn when you teleport with the TV while they are healthy. The moment you identify the TV that survivors have to put their tape on, you can...
This one was the exact build I used in the PTB to test out if it was still possible.
Slug the survivor carrying a tape, and at some point, they will get condemned with nothing they can do to prevent this. And with Sadako's demanifested power, you can also bypass any survivors that attempt to body block the slugged one. So really, the only counter to this is to have a teammate with an anti-slug build, like with the new Buckle Up, Soul Guard, or For the People. And even then, with Save the Best for Last,
this is what I was doing
you
in
can catch
PTB.
up faster than a survivor can put a tape on a TV. So if you really want to play Slug Dako, you still can. And you can even attempt to do this base kit, as the Condemned stack on hit does not require any add-ons. So not only they butchered the old Condemned playstyle, they added a new playstyle that seems to be more toxic than Basement Camping Bubba or Forever Freddy. And let's talk about her...
I don't think it's nearly as potent as the last one, though.
Because on practice, they are not worth it at all, and they do not accomplish anything. These changes look good for the untrained eye, or for those that do not play Sadako like myself, but these are also flawed. First of all, the Onryo does not get stunned anymore while they manifested.
What's the interesting
This is
change?
a buff, yes, but only to Sadako's playing against survivors with less than 10 hours in the game, because this obviously does absolutely nothing against survivors that know what they are doing. And the thing is, this buff is not even a buff or a nerf. You cannot get stunned, sure, but you still have to interact with the palette and you will still get pushed by it. You cannot
It's still better than taking the full stun, though.
State, which would actually give her an anti-loop power unique to her. You still have to break the palette to continue to chase. And in regards to the Bloodlust changes, while I am against Bloodlust as a mechanic to fix map design, I still think the logic they went with is flawed, as they try to compare Sadako with the Wraith, when the reality is that Sadako is in no way similar to Wraith, as she does not get a speed boost after manifesting, she only gets slowed down. As the game is currently, this is a direct nerf to her chasing power, and this is even more noticeable thanks to an add-on change we will talk about later. I would like to know the design intent with this balance change. I understand that one of the main concerns they had is Slug Dako, which is still in the game in an even more toxic way,
But yeah, you keep saying toxic, but like it's not as strong. Like homie keeps saying, well, it's more toxic, but like you can't do. But like it's at the removal, not the removal, but the nerf of like the old playstyle, which was way more oppressive. So like you can keep saying, well, it's more toxic, but it's like it's not as potent as it was before in its previous version. So like I don't know.
It overcompensated a lot, and the more I think about it, the more weird I find it. Sadako had a crazy high kill rate according to their stats back in September, and I am sure this was caused because she was a hard killer to understand as a new player. It was not explained anywhere what you had to do with the cursed tapes, or with the TVs, or the fact that she was silent, besides the loading tips before starting a match. If you were a newish player and you matched against a Sadako with zero idea as to what her power was, you would probably end up dead. But the weird thing is that with this side grade, it feels like she will be even stronger against noobs that don't take cursed tapes or that don't know her power, as the condemned status effect build-up will happen naturally as long as you keep playing. The problem is that against the high caliber of survivors and survivors that are playing with their friends in a team, Sadako got nerfed drastically, and she was already weak against high caliber survivors. Sadako was a very weak M1 killer that had a small amount of mace.
I do agree that I like the direction they're going, because like you want to make her generally better instead of having to be like you guys were saying earlier, some of you were saying in the chat, is like forcing her into a very like narrow specific playstyle if she wants to compete at all or have any sort of sense of consistent results. So I don't think we should revert these changes. I definitely think we should just like continue to improve on them. I think it is a step in the right direction. In a lot of ways, it is making her better to the like more consistent. But we should edge out. We should work out the edges on it, smooth out the edges on it.
Character, but those that mained her absolutely loved her. This rework fundamentally changes the Sadako they fell in love with, and based on the reactions I have seen from a lot of Sadako mains, these changes are not good at all. I cannot imagine how frustrating it is.
Yeah, because every Sadako main just slugged people to death and forced them to essentially not play the video game. Of course every Sadako main's gonna hate this. Sadakos don't play the game like everybody else does. They just slug people out until they get their Insta-Mori. You remember Sadakos during Overbrine Eruption meta? They would just all run like triple slowdown and slug people to death until they won the game by you know, condemning everybody to death because they could just dry kick Jen and buy enough time to win the game. It was dreadful. It was absolutely dreadful. I never want to go back to that. Obviously, removing Overbrine Eruption helped a lot, because now she's a little bit more time sensitive to do all the stuff that she does. But like, I want to continue on that route of like moving away from that. I like that they left a way to still do it if you wish. That's not as potent. But we should focus on making her more a general good killer, or general more average killer, than like trying to squeeze this like condemned wanting people to insta-die thing into the game. Like, it should be difficult to do. It should be hard to achieve. But it wasn't. All you had to do was learn a playstyle, and it was fairly easy to achieve, especially during the Overbrine Eruption meta. You know?
That the changes they immediately saw as nerfs or problematic were universally praised by content creators such as myself as buffs. One thing I had a lot of hope for was her add-ons, because I thought they would rework them like with the Legion or Ghostface, which are in my opinion the best add-on passes we ever had. For that reason, I was positive on my dev diary video, because I want to stop being so cynical of the devs, stop being so negative, stop criticizing them, because I trusted them. Well, the only thing they did is prove to me that whoever is behind the add-on balancing team has zero idea what they are doing. At least make an effort in understanding why add-ons suck and what add-on design is good, please.
They did a good job with
Wesker,
Wesker. Besides, like,
who offered already
video conference
that
device.
he's willing to help with the add-on department for absolutely free, yet you still decide to make horrible mistakes in your game, and it just pisses me off. First of all, the redesign videotape now makes it so that survivors have to insert tapes on the furthest TV.
Yeah, so if you want to do the condemned playstyle, like if you want to do like the condemned playstyle, you can do this. You can bring your videotape and like try to play the old way, right? Because now that person can't just dump the tape off at any TV. They have to go to a specific one, so you can catch them before they get there, slug them out, catch them before they get to it, slug them out, etc. You know.
If their intention was to make this add-on not as dependent to be good, then they made a big mistake, because there is zero reason not to run this add-on on all your matches. They achieved nothing with this change, and now this Iridizen add-on feels just as needed base kit as the previous version. It will still be one of the most...
I never used the Iri videotape. I'm not the biggest Sadako player. I had a phase with her and I liked her a lot, and she was in my constant rotation that I kind of fell out of, but I never used Iri videotape. You will now. I didn't during the PTB. I almost never used Iri videotape. Ever. And I wasn't like losing all my matches or anything. Still did fairly okay. Stayed consistent, won most of my matches.
Boost add-ons. Yoichi's fishing net. The add-on that used to give passive condemned to curse tapes now gives the blindness status effect after 4 stacks
of
condemned. Thanks
especially for yellow.
For giving me material for my next top 10 worst add-ons in Dead by Daylight video. Whoever designed this absolute pile of dog trash. We have a blindness add-on already that does this add-on's job better. This is the kind of balance changes that just piss me off. Like, how can I stay positive and constructive when the developers claim that they give a lot of thought to their balancing according to their official Ask Me Anything? Like, I legit do not understand this. It's obvious that it took time to code this effect into the game. I also think it's fair to assume that various people had to approve this add-on effect. So did nobody really think that this add-on was absolute trash?
Having a double yellow blindness add-on is kind of weird.
That,
I will agree.
Maybe no sane killer player would ever use this pile of shit. How can I legit say that the developers of this game play killer on a high level if nobody thought that this add-on was absolutely stupid? Remote.
This is going to be a thing that's going to hurt to hear. And while I do think most killers should be moved into like, low B at weakest, and as strongest killers should be like high A, that's not really how the gaming world works. It's really not. I felt it, right? Since we're talking and I'm talking specifically about like high tier play, right? Since that's what we're talking about right now. That's what was brought up, is like at the high level. Something I bring up often on the channel. I come from an FGC past. Come from the FGC past. Competed in fighting games. Never got better than third at any tournament. And there was my tournaments were not huge. It was like 20 to 50 people at any given point, right? I played fairly weak characters. At one point, while in my competitive days, played the weakest character in the game during a certain patch. And yeah, I worked really hard. I still placed 7th in that tournament. But like, if I was serious about winning prize money, if I was serious about, getting signed to an esports organization, if I was serious about that, I'd drop that character. Because some characters, and I would say arguably like most characters, are not designed to be viable. They're designed to be fun, to be entertaining, to be accessible. Because that's what makes them the most money, is making them fun and accessible to everyone. Because the average Joe Schmo that picks up the game is not playing at the highest level. Most people don't play at the highest level. Don't let all those Twitch nerds that put it in their titles fool you. Most people don't play at the highest level. They just don't. They just don't. So most of game design in games, when it comes to like characters, is not geared towards the high level. And if you want to play at the high level, you do have to play typically top 10, top 5 characters in a game. It gets pretty crazy in fighting games. In fighting games, it's like people argue about who you're going to play in the top 3. You don't even have the option to like mess around with like a top 10 character in the game. So like that's why I argue that like low B should be the lowest that like a character should be in terms of strength. But like I don't say like characters should be strong. Like characters should all be A tier or S tier, because like most games are designed for accessibility reasons. You don't need to know a specific condemned playstyle to get value out of this character like you used to, right? You don't. Now, what does that come with? Maybe we can work that out. Maybe we can smooth out the edges. But they're trying to make her more accessible outside of just being outright nearly bad. Like almost just outright terrible. Unless you're doing Condemned Sadako and then suddenly you're super OP, you know? Like, not even super OP, but you're better, right? They're trying to make her generally more accessible. That's the idea. If there's some stuff they really need to work out with this, yeah, sure. I agree with that. But to say, like, you don't get where it's coming from and, like, why did they not balance for the top level? You shouldn't be playing Sadako at the top level. You should never be playing this character at the top level. Exactly, Frick. Those are good examples. Those are really good example. Still viable to play in pubs, just in general. You're not going to bring Freddy into, like a comp match with some of the best Survivor players. No. If you're serious about being the best at this game and like playing at the highest level and always winning, trying to have the highest win rate possible, you're not out here playing Sadako. You're not out here playing Sadako, and if you want that, you got to play a better character. Just like how if I really wanted to win, actually start winning my tournaments instead of placing 3rd through 5th all the time and kind of being like hard stuck at a plateau, I needed to play Akuma instead of Kage. I needed to play top 5 characters in the game and not somebody who at one point in the patch was the weakest character in the game available to you. That's just how that works at like high level in competition and sweatiness, right? Yeah, playing like Nurse, Blight, Plague, Oni, Spirit, stuff like that. If you want those results, you play characters who are capable of getting those results. There are some characters, like a huge IP, like Ringu, who are designed to be accessible to a lot of people because a lot of people are going to play her because she's incredibly popular. And she wasn't actually that accessible. She was just kind of a really, really bad, mediocre killer, and you had to learn a very, very oddly specific playstyle to even get value out of her. Now that's going to be so much. That's not going to be so much of a thing, which is going to make her like retroactively easier to buy and get into. Yeah, exactly. That was a struggle I had exactly in Yu-Gi-Oh as well, Toto, because I want to do that. I wanted to run fun cards that I just thought were cool. But that's not how it works. If I wanted to stay consistently good, I wanted to win my tournaments, like, I should have abandoned the archetypes that I was playing, but I was like, no, I like these cards. And you know what? I never really did that well in those. If you're talking about the high level and getting those consistent results, like, you can't look at, like, bottom 10 characters of the game like Sadako and be like, oh, well, they need to buff her so she can play at the high level. You would essentially have to give her another fucking power to make her consistent at the high level. You would have to give her a whole nother power to make her consistent at the high level. You saw her crumble so hard. Like, the condemned playstyle got a lot weaker when Bran Eruption went away. Because you saw how much time it took to do that against, like, competent players at the higher level. You know? Like, you saw that. Like, there was a steep decline in the effectiveness of Condemned Sadako once you couldn't just dry kick a gen and buy a lot of time to keep playing the match. Nor a lot of the Widow Spouts. That's true. That's true. But yeah, that's just like a hard gaming fact. And and I'm only preaching about this because I've been there. Wanting to, like, I competed in Street Fighter for years. right? Like I literally traveled for tournaments. I was very passionate about it, and I never ever wanted to leave my favorite character. But my favorite character was often, you know, worst in the game, bottom 5, bottom 10. He eventually got buffed to a point where he was like below B tier, which was pretty cool. I was pretty happy about that. But like, if I wanted to win my tournaments, if I wanted to rise through the ranks and actually like win prize money and maybe get signed by someone, I should have played top 3, top 5 characters in the game. That's just how it goes. But that only matters if you care about winning, and DBD is mostly a party game. So that's their priority.
Control. Yeah, that iridescent add-on that was by far one of the worst add-ons in the entire game. You remember that one? Well, they made it
Nasher,
better.
Fang, and Jorino. I played Kage.
Show the aura of
I played like Kage. I played like Kage was my main. Through and through. I played Evil Ryu in every game he's ever been in. That's like my main character in every Street Fighter he's available in. I liked Zeku a fair bit. I played Seth a fair bit. But those were like secondary characters. Played Honda a little bit too. But those were like secondary characters. Kage, Evil Ryu in general has just kind of always been my main.
15 meters from a TV and carrying a cursed videotape. And now...
Would you compare this to Mario Party? Not really, but it's more in line with Mario Party than like an actual like sweaty competitive experience, right? Because like Mario Party literally has rubber band mechanics in the background that help the match stay balanced. And so does Mario Kart, if you didn't know that. So like for example, like in Mario Kart, like somebody has more likely to get a very, very powerful good item if they're in a lower place than somebody who's in like first or second or third place who'll probably get a crap item. There's actual rubber band mechanics to actually like keep the game balanced. DVDs are kind of random. Like it's just a lot of RNG, which is a little different, you know? It's not like planned chaos, it's just chaos.
Reveals any survivor near a TV, no matter if they have a videotape or not. But did you notice it? They nerfed the range of the aura reading.
Yeah, but Frick, those are the exceptions, not the rule. Frick, those are exceptions, not the rule. Just because like I'm not out here saying I got third place in a tournament with Kage when he was the weakest character in the game. Sure, it was only like a 25-man tournament. It was like a tri-state thing. Like 20, 30 people showed up. But I got third place. I wouldn't be like Kage's secretly good. Like no, I was just kind of good at the game and doing my darndest to make something work, right? I wouldn't say, "Oh, that character's good now." No. That's an exception, not the rule.
That's because little Timmy at the add-on balance team noticed that it would be too strong of an effect, right? An iridescent add-on that fully depends on being able to teleport on set TVs with an extremely high cooldown. Oh, what's that? Demogorgon's Leprose Lycan is an iridescent that reveals the auras of everyone globally each time you teleport from a portal. Oh wait, what's that? Dredge Lavalier Mike, a very rare add-on, also reveals the auras of all survivors globally when you use your last teleport on lockers. Now how can you legit defend the add-on balance team at behavior after they make such stupid balance decisions like this? They don't even have consistency in their own killers. Who thought 16 meters of aura reading would be too overpowered on an iridescent add-on when the other two killers have global aura reading no matter what with no cooldowns? The very rare tape editing deck was not changed in any way.
I mean, in general with this, it's like he's gonna go through all these add-ons and be like, this is bad add-on design. But like honestly, it's actually more rare that behavior has good add-on design than it does bad add-on design. Like there's kind of like no uniform philosophy with how strong or weak certain add-ons are. They're just kind of all over the place. So have somebody like Wesker who has very, very solid good add-on design, where like browns have uses, yellows have uses, greens have uses, Eries have uses, but like there's different strengths among them, right? But then you'll just have like somebody like who says awful add-on design? Who has just terrible add-on design off the top of my head? Pyramid Head? Yeah, Pyramid and Nemesis, where like just like most of their add-ons just like do nothing and only two things are viable. That's just behavior in general. That's not them trying to dog Sadako. I just don't think they know what to do with add-ons. They have no design philosophy for add-ons, for add-on design. They don't seem to know what they want out of it. So everybody's all over the place. Everybody's all over the place.
So survivors start already with a curse tape, which will make them protected from the new global condemned mechanic, and it also keeps the old TV mechanic back the first time. So if you want, you can start with this add-on and Lethal Pursuer, and you can do the Sadako playstyle I mentioned earlier without having to wait for anyone to pick up a tape. Ring Drawing got an actual smart change, as it now only works when you heal from injured to healthy in order to prevent slugging. Who would have thought that someone at their add-on balance team actually did a smart
And it's
change?
still helpful if you're going
Literally,
for
this
condemns,
change would be enough
which is good.
to end the slugging Sadako playstyle with the old version of her kit. I have zero complaints about this change in specific. And then we go to possibly the worst balance add-on nerf ever, Reiko's Watch. Remember the uproar that the Hillbilly community did with the engraving add-on nerf? Well, Behavior made the exact same mistake again. But
be careful.
Since nobody plays
Be careful.
Sadako,
Careful.
nobody cares. And there
Careful.
isn't much uproar.
Careful.
This add-on allowed some Sadako players to make actually cool anti-loop plays that allowed skill expression on the best Sadako players, as you can see by the footage provided by Adrian von Karma, a Sadako main, without resorting to the condemned playstyle. It's obvious that Behavior saw that this add-on was being used too much, and that Sadakos who used it won too much, so they decided to nerf it, because that's what their Excel spreadsheets said. Great! Instead of making Sadako's anti-loop interesting, they go and nerf one of the most interesting add-ons Sadako had. So now with this add-on nerfed, there isn't literally any way to make her anti-loop power unique or interesting. Well, at least they compensated by buffing some of her other add-ons, right? Because according to the dev diary, they brought her highest and the lowest performing add-ons closer in line with the rest of options, right? Well, what they meant is that they made all of her add-ons the same pile of shit. The only 3 buffs in this entire add-on pass is that now the Mother's Comb add-on gives a notification to any TV turned off, Distorted Photo now shows the aura of screaming survivors, and now the Meme add-on reduces the cooldown of TVs for 15 seconds, but it only gives 0.5 stacks of Condemned for each teleport. If that's what Behavior thinks as good buffs, Sadako is doomed.
I mean, I still used
what did
Watch during
Behavior
the
achieve with this addon pass?
the
Did
BTB.
they
I didn't think
create
it was too
new
much worse, but
playstyles and
maybe that's
builds for
placebo, I don't know.
Sadako like they did for Legion or Ghostface? Nope. It's the exact same playstyle every single match, with no way to stand out or be unique and express your skill level. They made her more boring to play as, and when they said that they did a balancing pass on the add-ons to bring her highest and lowest performing add-ons, they basically used a Excel in order to nerf the only add-on Sadako players used. But Behavior, the reason the nerfed add-ons were used is not because they were broken, it's because they were the only add-ons that meaningfully changed her power in any way, because the rest of her add-ons suck tremendously. Meep less than 3, a content creator I recommend a lot, made a Sadako add-on pass that has way more soul and interesting ideas that anything
It just looks like she
developers
put a mop on
ever
her head.
made for Sadako.
It always looks so goofy.
How come a content creator can make such interesting buff ideas, but the best the official developers came up with is blindness on 4 stacks of Condemned? I don't understand how Sadako's add-ons got nerfed faster than any of the Blight's add-ons. I really don't get the logic behind this. You have entire legions of players that complain about the Blight's problematic add-ons and have countless amounts of video evidence that the add-ons are broken. But let's nerf Reiko's Watch because their Excel spreadsheets says that it's overperforming. And again, just to make it clear, I like the intentions behind this rework. I like the global condemned effect. My only issue is that this rework seems to be created by developers that only played Survivor or Killer for less than 100 hours. And honestly, I fully understand if developers have no time to play their game on the high level, or if they are not able to master their own game, because they spend most of their time creating new DLC, programming, and all that business, corporation meetings, whatever. So if there is any chance they take feedback from videos like mine or from the community, I hope they continue changing Sadako, because I feel like this rework has potential. The purpose of this video is to spread the condemned status effect to the community so they know that Sadako, if not changed from the PTB, will become a worse killer than before. So just like Sadako's curse tapes,
this is an exhausting video. This is like I'm not
ears. Let's just hope.
I'm not like a toxic positivity kind of person. Matter of fact, just always tell things how they are. But like the fact that this video was just so relentlessly negative from start to finish for 32 straight minutes. Like I'm exhausted from watching this video. Like I'm like emotionally tired. This was like more negative than it needed to be. Way more negative than it needed to be. Hi Maxie, it's good to see you. Hope you're doing well tonight, friend. I think in general it's a good change that puts her in the right direction. And I will agree that there's like some stuff like the add-ons and like the teleport cooldown that, yeah, we could probably like put in stuff to try and like, you know, like I liked their suggestion of like making the teleports on just, you know, back to the way they were, but only the global goes off and global has a cooldown. But like, I definitely don't think it's a flat-out only nerf to the character. I think it's a general moving her towards a place more of like accessibility, which is good and especially important for a big IP like that. And we can add some fixes and add some feedback that'll probably, you know, smooth this out and put it in a good place. But 32, I don't think it's nearly bad enough for like 32 minutes of just complete dogging, like complete like negativity with like the only real like suggestion that Mint put in was like, you know, the teleport idea, the proposed change, and I liked that. I was like, heck yeah. But this was just almost 32 minutes of just like, hey, the devs are just so stupid and I hate them with all my heart and soul. I'm like even for somebody like me who's very much like, I try to see things the way they are and I will be, well, very openly critical of behavior if they deserve it. Like this was a lot. This was very draining to listen to. I wish there was a lot more like constructivity with this, where there was more like solutions and not just like 32 minutes of how terrible the devs are. So yeah, like I said, like I liked their teleport idea. Obviously take a look at the add-ons again. Hopefully we can get those put in a place where they're not like weird. But other than that, I think most of the changes are still putting her in a good direction for the most part and making her more generally accessible. So I feel like it's something that needed adjusting and not just like complete garbage like they said it was. So yeah.